Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for joining us. Tell us about the research you found uncovering this link between private donations and residential schools.
Sure. I'm doing research looking into my people, the Blood Tribe's historical past with colonization. And so I've been taking a look at the residential school era and the other school models that the Canadian government used to try and assimilate Indigenous children. So I've been doing research, traveling across Canada to take a look at multiple museums and archives to find primary and secondary documents that were written by the Canadian government and the different government officials and the different religions who ran residential schools, including the other schools on the Blood Reserve, to read about what has happened to my people. And I found a document from the Anglican Church where they had put out a report on how what they called Indian missions. And so they would put a report out every year about how their Indian missions were going. And it was to kind of try and entice different citizens from Canada and around the globe to try and to donate to the Anglican Church to be able to help raise funds for the schools to be maintained and continue to run those schools.
So, Tiffany, how did it fit into the missionary work these churches thought they were doing?
Well, when they first started to open up schools, the Canadian government wasn't paying everything that needed to be financed at that time to run schools. And so the Canadian government, depending on what time of the era that they were in, would only be able to provide a certain amount of money. And so the churches needed to be able to find a way to make up the difference to be able to run those schools. And so what I found for the Anglican Church was they would use these reports, kind of a pamphlet that they would hand out to try and make up that difference. And so they would talk about the different missions that they had. So this is specific to my people who were part of the Calgary diocese. And so they would talk about how the mission was going, how many children were being baptized, how education was moving forward. You know, it was to try and put the mission in a very positive light. And to let people know what kind of donations that they needed. And then it would be up to the citizens to decide if they were going to donate to the church or to a specific mission. And they had a donation card within the report as well for people to fill out and to send back to the diocese.
So, Tiffany, you've called for the churches to release the records. How would that help?
You know, it's really hard as I have been traveling across Canada to try and find my people's records. It's not in just one place, and it's been incredibly difficult. I might find some files from the 1800s in one archives, from the 1930s in a different archive, in the 1950s in a completely different archive. So it's literally scattered across Canada, and it makes it really hard to be able to try and find records. And some of the records are restricted, and so I'm not able to access all of the history about my people. And it would be really nice to be able to take a look at those records, to know what happened to my ancestors and to my people. And so without being able to have access to those documents, it makes it really hard to understand what has happened. And I don't understand why those records need to be restricted, particularly members of the tribe that are coming to look at those records.
All right, Tiffany, we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank you again for taking a few minutes to speak with us today.
Yes, thank you for the invitation.